Kids are out playing again. How lovely is that? Morning. So it's a beautiful day here in Kington, which is on the English-Welsh border, North Herefordshire, an area called the Marches, which is Shropshire, Herefordshire. Very beautiful around here. So I'm very grateful to the Network of Wellbeing for inviting me to offer some reflections on the kindness economy. I thought what I'd do is just reference these 6 stones. So I've been thinking for quite a while about the question, how do we make the world a kinder place? So this first stone is that big, expansive question. How do we close the compassion gap to make the world a kinder place? That question's been sort of driving my work activity for quite a while, and in a way my way of life, I guess. So I was thinking about how do we create the conditions in which families are thriving. So I think this stone represents that big question, and it represents that sense of family thriving. So how can we evolve more consciously so that the places where we work, the places where we learn, places where we pray, places where we recover, places where we rehabilitate, places where we punish, these systems, justice systems, education systems, faith systems, business systems, are all somehow connected. Well, they're all directly connected, really. They're all part of this whole. And when they're driven by the forces of competition and free market economics, then we become very unconscious about the harms that they're doing, often unintentionally. That can be to the planet, that can be to people, just aware of the traffic noise. I think I'm just going to go a little bit further away. Keep going. So I won't use the other stones as a symbol, I'll find something else. So yeah, we've basically got a system which is driven by performance and competition and the free market. It's very, very damaging, really. It's really damaged the planet, and it's damaged us. You know, if you look at things like the really extraordinary uptick in mental health difficulties for young people and the amount of antidepressants that are taken every day, it's really extraordinary. We are sick. We're sick. We're really unwell. We're really unwell. It's a bit quieter here, isn't it? So I've been thinking quite a lot about, I've been calling it the kindness economy. Done a little bit of writing about it. Been inspired by foundational economics, which is basically an economics which is rooted in what people need rather than what people want. So yeah, some great thinking in that space. Foundational economics. Kindness is not a it's not like a nice to have. It's the same root as the word kinship, which means alongside, kin, closeness, kinship, kindness. So if we don't consciously design kindness in, then it won't be there, and that's unethical, really, and it's immoral, and it's inefficient, and it's unwise. Conversely, when we do design it in, it's intelligent, it animates, and it brings us together in very direct ways. So yeah, kinder place. I had this insight, I can't remember what it was that created it, but that's not important. I had this realization that we've basically got a potential new KPI. So the old KPI is rooted in performance management, targets, sales, incentives. And a lot of those incentives are perverse incentives. So just a little example of a perverse incentive, a key performance indicator. Prisons have key performance indicators around getting people out onto probation, getting prisoners out on probation. They have psychological programs within the prisons to help the prisoners think differently and to address the sort of root causes of what it is that they've lived through that might have given rise to some criminality, etc. So an example of an example of a perverse incentive is a key performance indicator that says we're going to get X amount of prisoners out on parole and then into the probation service per year. And then what happens is, because there's that target, the most plausible prisoners are approached or put through a program because they will be most effective at parole board at presenting as if they have been able to address their thinking. They may or may not have been able to, but the point is that the prisoners that most need the program are least likely to get it, or most need the deep change are least likely to get it. So that's an example of an old KPI, a key performance indicator, and these are endemic. They're really everywhere. If you start scratching below the surface, most businesses in the West are driven by key performance indicators, performance management, appraisal, targets, all very dehumanizing. But the good news is, and if you ask people about their KPIs, certainly in public services where they're now pervasive, you can feel people's energy drop in the room. People feel really oppressed, actually, by their key performance indicators. So that's the bad news, or that's the kind of old paradigm. But there is a new paradigm, the kindness economy, which is driven by the new KPI, which is very cool. So the new KPI is the kinder place indicator. So how would you know, how would you measure, how would you evolve towards kindness in your workplace, in your school, in your prison, in your community? What would that look, sound and feel like? What kind of targets might you set to create a world in which kindness is one of the main drivers? The new KPI, kinder place indicator. So example from the charity sector, Action for Children. We're looking for their main sort of driving KPI, kinder place indicator. How would they know systemically? What indicator could they look at that would let them know that children in a country systemically were doing better? And where they got to was that those children would be read to before they went to sleep. It was under sevens. Children under 7 would be read to before they go to sleep. That's their kinder place indicator, which drives all kinds of activities. The whole organisation then is oriented towards creating those conditions where children are more likely to be read to before they go to sleep. So when we think about kindness in business, it makes me think about 5 wins. So the first win is that it's kinder for the individual. So I am flourishing at work. The second win is that it's kinder for my family. So we are flourishing at work, or through work, or through the way we run our schools, our universities, our communities. The third win is that it's kinder for those communities. So the way we do things is good for community. It brings us together, common purpose, so that we can meet as equals and celebrate our differences. This sandpit is just giving rise to an awareness of a flexibly employed mother or father who can spend more time playing with their young children. Maybe even going through that tunnel together and hanging out on that seesaw. good for families. So good for the individual, good for families, good for communities. The fourth win is good for business, whatever business you're in. If you're in the business of education, if you're in the business of manufacturing, if you're in the business of hospitality, it's got to be good for your business. So these new KPIs have got to be good for your business. And then the fifth win has got to be good for the planet. This precious planet. So I'm very, very grateful to the Network of Wellbeing for the extraordinary work they do, and for the inspirational founder Satish Kumar, who encourages us to focus on the 3 S's of soil, soul, society. That awareness has definitely helped me to evolve my awareness of kindness and compassion and its central importance. I'm very, very grateful to the founders and local people in Leeds who are instrumental to the Leeds Kindness Revolution and the Festival of Kindness, Compassion and Wellbeing. Very grateful to friends and allies in this small town Kinkton for their devotion to the Heart of Care programme, in which we've asked the kind of a big question like, what kind of place do we want to live and die in? So I hope these musings are helpful. Have fun asking yourself the question, how would we know that we were working in a kinder place? What would that look, sound and feel like? Maybe before you do that, ask yourself the question, how can I make myself a kinder place? So be the change you wish to see. If we wish to create a world of kindness, we begin with ourselves.